I have never done a Pecha Kucha before and have not practiced this one. I have only made the slides and written out some notes.
So you can even, there's no like strict time limit to 5 minutes, 36 seconds, or like you can go.
6 minutes and 20 seconds, yes.
It's so adorable, Christine's hat. And in the beginning, I thought there is an artwork behind and it looks just like a hat. And knowing that it's a real hat, it just makes it more adorable.
I love it. Are you guys seeing my slides now? My intention today is to tell you a little bit about what ShowUp is and what we've been doing. And then one of our major programs and kind of how we're seeing that moving forward into the future, and see if people may want to get involved in that in the next coming months. So ShowUp is located in Boston South End. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, meaning that donations to us are tax deductible. We support a lot of underrepresented, highly talented artists through a level of comprehensive support, really starting in the studio way before an exhibition, going through the exhibition, and even after an exhibition. This is our current exhibition that you can see right now. And one of the artists that's in it, we have 6 artists, and they're all Indigenous, Native American, and we have a Indigenous curator as well. We have traditionally called what we do to have 3 different pillars, although we're trying to figure out a way to describe it in a more integrated fashion, because it really is something that's bigger and more holistic. But the 3 words that we've used are exhibitions, education, and engagement. Because a lot of those things really do come together within the exhibition itself, although we do some events that are outside the purview of an actual exhibition as well. And our mission, which is separate from those 3 words, is to connect artists to local communities and beyond, to amplify artists and their voices, provide artists tools for self-sufficiency, and empower artists and curators to experiment, learn, and have meaningful exchanges. And a lot of what we're doing is helping artists and curators and really other creatives, if we're doing a different type of event, for instance, to realize their creative vision in whatever way we can. And this, what you're seeing here, this is a show from this past spring by Karen Tabb, who is a local artist to this area, and it was called A Stone in My Shoe. And so we had a lot of textile work here, all in white. It was a beautiful solo exhibition. This image here is really getting into, for instance, engagement. This is an event. This is where we brought in the Teen Empowerment Center back in early 2024 during Jameel Radcliffe, who's now a board member, for his solo exhibition. This was called Kids from the Stars. And the Teen Empowerment Center came in and did a poetry night. And the teens in the group shared poetry with us. And then others shared poetry. And they are local to Boston. They're over in Roxbury. They're an amazing nonprofit. And it was just a chance for a unique community to all come together within our space. So we've talked about a little bit of exhibitions. We just talked about engagement. The education piece has manifested itself in a multiple of ways. We've done, I'll talk a little bit more about who we've had, like this brush up series that we've done in the past that are kind of like one-off professional practice programs. But really where we've, I think, found the most traction and the most interest in the greater community in, let's say, some of the administrative individuals in Boston, such as at Boston City Hall, and some of the most visible success in terms of bringing exhibitions to the public, kind of bringing things together, has been through our brush up series the curatorial incubator, through the curatorial incubator program, where we're bringing people who may not have curated anything before, supporting them in a variety of ways to bring an exhibition to the world. So this is Cutting Edge with Rosa Leff, who you see pictured, doing a paper cutting show. And she's an artist, and this was her first time curating. We probably really did this for the first time without realizing it back in 2020 with Jamal Eversley and his Real Friends exhibition. And Real Friends is now on its 4th iteration in the Boston area. So you can see we also end up inadvertently or purposefully helping to support exhibitions that then travel to other places. Rosa Leff's Cutting Edge ended up at the Guild of American Paper Cutters Museum in Pennsylvania as well. This is another image from Cutting Edge. We also had another exhibition, Aerosol, which you'll see in a minute, which is about Boston's graffiti DNA, which also was at our space and then went to another gallery, and also was a opportunity for a lot of convening of the local graffiti and street art artists in the Boston area. So these are really unique opportunities where we're bringing in, thanks to working with new curators and a variety of individuals, a new population. And so this is something that's really unique for us because we're doing this in person, and also represents a way in which we're kind of lowering barriers to entry in this field. This is just someone taking a picture of some of the work in the show. And I would say that this is us being in the Boston Globe. There is obviously like an appetite for this. As you can see, they wouldn't give us the picture in the Globe if there wasn't. But it's hard for us to get a lot of traction in terms of people understanding why they should give us money, why they should support us, because a lot of our work is directly supporting the artists. And so people aren't seeing the direct support to the general public, which has been an ongoing struggle for us. And figuring out how to kind of bridge that gap remains a piece that we're still working out. But we are doing something that's different and new. I think we do need a new approach. That's probably going to be focusing more specifically, rather than on exhibitions, but on bringing these curatorial programs specifically to the public. So really focusing on training curators, maybe having the exhibitions, but the educational piece of helping people to learn and leverage these skills, whether or not the skills end up being used in our gallery, I think is the most important and potentially valuable piece of what we are doing. And one of the ways I know that this is really important is because it can allow us to help people do innovative different things in terms of how they look at curation and what opportunities they have. This program did not come directly, or this exhibition did not come directly out of the curatorial incubator program, but is an example of how ShowUp has been a platform for new ways of presenting exhibitions and information. This is Lou Valina's Bait Switch show, which was essentially a magazine that was taken from a two-dimensional form, and the entire timeline of the call and response art magazine was placed into a three-dimensional timeline, where every piece is responding to the piece after it. So we call ShowUp Curatorial Incubator Program SKIP. And this, you can see the woman in the center here is the curator of the exhibition with some of her artists around it. And it really is something that is collaborative, pushes boundaries, and can bring the community together. And I believe it's something that we can also make financially sustainable. We're still working on the business model, but I think it has a solid future and would act maybe as an online seminar or be in person. This is an example of an artist talk. This is Karen Tabb's artist talk, and could potentially also be scalable. It would be divided into multiple different sections, one where we potentially work with artists. I could also see it being applied to people who are interested specifically in curation. So the artist ones would be more about kind of like curating their own work and then going beyond that. There could be a very specific pure curatorial track. One that's really for collecting and home curators, and then another one for designers and decorators as well. Certainly not all of these are going to be developed at the same time, but we see a vision for a multitude of different concepts. And this would allow us to go beyond what we're doing right now is very one-on-one, but I think that there's a way to disseminate this information more widely, and thus also expand our audience and to be able to show up, I think, to the public as I grow this. This is me talking to a curator of an artist on the right, and curator Angela Tate of the Museum of African American History, Boston and Nantucket on the left, who's a friend of mine. And yes, we'd have all these different interest groups and really founded in what people are studying, where they're studying, and addressing a variety of different important topics, including, for instance, pricing work and just becoming confident in one's own practice, whatever that might be. We'd love to get artists or experts involved. This is Mariam Safaju, who's a 2025 Guggenheim Fellow who exhibited with us over the summer. And one of the strengths of ShowUp is really having a lot of strong contacts in the curatorial world and artist world and beyond. And certainly it wouldn't just be me doing this program, although I do have a master's degree in teaching. And so writing curriculum is something that I pride myself in, but being able to pull in others as well to make this a program that would be very strong is something that I'm excited about. And we're hoping to build connections. I'm looking at the time and realizing I've gone over and how easy it is to go over. Yes. double. Yes, we're excited here too. And the last thing that I would just say, this is my last slide. So I'm just pushing it here. If you like the idea of all of this, I would love for any one of you who are on here, just send me a note about it. Because what I'd like to do is do kind of a test run of a few of these online. And eventually this is going to be a paid program, but I first need some guinea pigs. And I would be very happy to, thanks to my relationship with Very Private Gallery, have any one of you be part of that program with me as we move forward. Thank you very much. Thanks for your patience. And appreciate all of you.
Oh, I like the rigor. You put photo credits. Cool.
There you go.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I do have a lot of questions, but I want to give the opportunity to others to see if, maybe they have the burning desire to ask. Yeah, go ahead, Laura.
Okay, I have a question. Christine, excellent job. Thank you. So you mentioned several examples of how this work and how your focus has an impact on community building. But then you said something that made me develop this question, and that is that it's you have a funding challenge because some of the potential donors are aware that you directly support artists, but it's hard for you to link how that really positively impacts the community. But then during your presentation, you gave lots of examples of how your work impacts the community. So can you tell me a little bit more about, you said you're trying to link those things, but they seem so linked to me. Can you talk about that a little more?
Sure. So what I would say is, I wish I could remember the exact words that I used. I think one of the issues is when the community that you're working with in terms of your target community is Boston South End, an underrepresented artist, an underrepresented community, and let's say the local community and artists, that they're wonderful people, but they're not necessarily going to have the means to support you financially. And they are not the audience that might be able, so you may be able to draw that audience in, right? Like we can bring in that audience for exhibitions, but they are not the philanthropic audience that is traditionally able to support the arts in Boston. The philanthropic audience is a little bit hard to capture. There are certainly people out there. And this is one of the issues, for instance, with even trying to do these courses. It's like, you need to make them kind of accessible, but people don't, if you want to like do a course on like buying jewelry, right? You know that you're probably, the people who want to buy jewelry and the people who wear jewelry are probably going to be people who have a fair amount of money, right? And so you could probably price it pretty high, right? But the people who are interested in curating art and who are making art don't necessarily have very deep wallets, or you're going to have to balance or figure out a model that might be sliding scale. I think you have to be much more intentional in how you create something that feels inclusive, especially for a place like me and what I've been doing. The other thing is that we've figured out that a lot of our audiences who come in are very, we have our core audience. So it's almost like multiple Venn diagrams. We have like the ShowUp core audience, and then we have the audience that's going to come for the graffiti show. And then there's not going to be much overlap. There's going to be the ShowUp overlap. But then when we have Mariam Salpaju, who is the Guggenheim winner, who is Baha'i, we're going to get this huge Baha'i audience. And Baha'i is a religion, persecuted religion from Iran/Persia. The Baha'i audience would not have come in for the aerosol show, but is very supportive of Mariam Salpaju. And it is amazing and so wonderful to have these different audiences coming in, but it also creates a lack of consistency in terms of, this group that's ongoing and willing to support us. And of course, you're hoping that every time you're bringing people into this like central audience of ours. But when you also have to remember that there's this bigger audience that are like the people who are just coming in to visit, and they also want to see like, what is the impact on their lives directly. I don't know. It's very complicated. I spent a lot of time thinking about it, and I could talk so much. I apologize.
No, that's what I wanted to know. And I guess it's just like a matter of finding donors who truly already believe, where you're not having to convince people, they already believe that kind of no matter what you're doing, whether it's the Baha'i audience or the aerosol audience, that diversity of presentation and growth is good for their community. And I don't know in the philanthropic audience or group, because you said there's not that much consistency, but I see a lot of consistency there, like just consistency in the projects that you're choosing. They're not the same exact type of people or audiences exactly, but they are underrepresented, and it's a range of voices. And for me, that creates consistency. Just in that it's diverse, and it's truly diverse, not like the PR word diverse. Like it's authentically, deeply diverse. And so I guess just finding the people who have the money to donate, who really believe that that's to the advantage of Boston to hear all these voices. Like, have you read all that data about when a board of a company has a really diverse and multi-gender representation, that typically earnings go up and
Mhm.
things like sick days go down? I mean, just kind of quirky, weird statistics that kind of spawn from like just a diverse group of voices in charge. And I feel like maybe some of that Malcolm Gladwell style data could be used when presenting to potential donors, but I don't know. I'm sure it's really, really, really challenging.
I think that one of the issues is trying to make that value proposition and say, here's the problem we're solving, is very hard, because you're kind of, and this just goes into like so many different areas, because it's very hard to feel like it's easily a problem that you can say that you're solving without feeling like you're being directly critical to the rest of the Boston art market, and being like everybody else sucks and isn't showing, like no one else is being diverse enough, and which is not really the case. But there's like a funny balance that you have to hit in terms of reinforcing that notion of like, a lot of what we're showing is art that's diverse artists, underrepresented artists, art that we believe belongs in museums. It is not, particularly sellable or commercial, because we believe in these artists and we think there's such an important message. And we've like consciously chosen a business model that would allow us to support this type of work so that these artists can be seen, because they're so talented, and we believe that they're deserving. And we don't believe that the art market and like what's visible in the art world should be driven by the almighty dollar. And that we also believe that artists deserve, especially as they're kind of like learning the trade, they have to know what good looks like. They have to know what is it to have an ethical, high quality experience working with a gallery, not just kind of like seat of your pants, nonprofit, kind of like, here's a key and now make everything happen for yourself. And that these are important experiences, informative experiences for them. But at the same time, everything that we do that makes us good makes people not want to donate to us, because we're good, because we look good. We look like we don't need money. Because if you look too good,
you look like you don't need money.
right? Because if you're too, it's like I have to start showing up in torn clothing or something, and like
For Halloween,
to make ourselves like more sad or something. We don't beg. I don't know. It's also, it's a question of like marketing. We don't have enough, and that's the problem. Is like we don't have any resources to market because I don't have any money. And anyway.
Yeah, maybe I have like 3 points. First, about money, marketing for the artists. There is one idea I've always thought about is, I don't know if it's legally is possible for you to do it, is that there are a lot of foundations that target at young artists. They give money to the artist, not to you, but to the artist.
Mm-hmm.
But what you can do is you help the artist get the fund, but then they have to spend the money in production and the exhibition. Then you take the exhibition part, and then they pay you an exhibiting fee or something like that. Then you can kind of package yourself with the artist, but put the artist forward as the storefront to get the fund. So this is one of my idea. I don't know in US if it's like legally done, or maybe it can be done informally as well, right? I'm not saying that she pays your commission, but I'm just saying that she could then, like, for example, for all the dollars that she received through your hard work and help and putting together the portfolio and curriculum, then she could go back and like willingly donate to the organization once she has the fund. I don't know if that is possible once she has the money from another foundation to give it to you, but they are like, I was thinking there could be ways to not ask as you, the gallery, because you look too good, but then the artist, oh, poor starving artists, they need money. That is much more marketable lines, I think. Then the second thing about diversity, the problem is that diversity in age, gender is totally okay. But when you have a diversity in value, like Baha'i, like other kind of spaghetti and meatballs, you have so much diversity in value. That's when you cannot get much funding. That's what I think. Because I am the diversity card wherever I go, like I consciously realize that the diversity that I'm struggling with, not the fact that I look Asian, which is what, 25% population. Hey, but in terms of value, when I was attending a conference in Budapest just 2 weeks ago, I gave my presentation. Then someone in the audience asked me, so if you were God, and I said, huh, what? And he said, if you were God, I said, which one? And then he said, like he realized that, oh my God, there are different ones, because for him, there's only one, right? Like, so when it comes to diversity and value, that's like you are trying to imagine, you're trying to, I don't know, produce a sock that is not 36 to 39 for women, not 39 to 42 for men, but a sock
in size, yes.
The second toe longer than the first, which is called Greek toe. And imagine if you market a sock that towards the Greek toe, like inherently there are going to be less people who are going to, because it's just the odd one. So odd one in value, odd one in style, they're all kind of difficult to market, which
I am always going to be for the underdog though, because those people are never going to have that's the issue.
Yeah.
Sorry, Greg, you have something to say, but Mo, you have Greg on your screen, so it's very interesting. And you had a third thing to say as well. So.
Yeah, but it's good to stop because, sorry for the echo, but it's good to stop, I think, after the first question, because I'm kind of old already and I forgot the first question. If you do one point after, we can answer to the first point.
Right. Just a comment rather than a question. I'm saying.
Yeah, but you have 3 points, so you can do one by one.
Okay, I have the real question is actually only one. Is that I was thinking about digging into the community building, which later I can share with you a different project in comparison to ours and yours. So you're building actually a community. I'm thinking, why not build a self-sufficient, autopilot, low maintenance cost community, for example, where your artists can share resources and ideas and collaborate online. I mean, of course, you have a physical location, that's the advantage, but you can do an online version of it, which are autopilot, so you don't have to spend money or too much of your time to kind of to have it growing. And then once they're growing and well, then you can have more bargaining power to say, hey, like I have a bigger community, I have this impact you can measure with statistics, because the culture spillover is very hard to measure. But online activities, you can see the activity in hour, in numbers of people, in views and shares, and all this kind of visits, basically. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
I do want to go back to what your first comment was, because I had something to say about that, and I don't remember what it was. So I'm not to kind of like pit you and your spouse against each other.
Like, can you put the artist in front and then look for funding? In the name of the artists, but even like use them as your ads.
Yep, I got it. So I think there is some of that. What I would say is that we actually pay our artists a small honorarium, which is exceptional, but that is what galleries do not do that, but small museums do, because we consider ourselves like, if to be a 501c3, you really cannot be a gallery. That is why we do not really focus on selling the art. The selling the art is one of the tools that we provide to the artists if they want. They do not have to make their art for sale when they show it with us, but we give them a honorarium for showing with us, and we follow along with wage guidance, which is from the workers in the art field. There's like a whole website that gives you an indication of where, based on your yearly budget, how much you should be giving. And we would love to collaborate, and especially when it comes to kind of like the fabrication of items and where we might need to do more kind of niche things, like to be working with an artist and be using maybe collaborative funds. And certainly we were trying to get grants and things like that. So very noble idea and certainly something feasible, but we're also not trying to, I mean, ultimately our goal is to support artists, and we're just trying to figure out how to be sustainable when we do it. We're just, you know, trying to get to that like a sustainable point.
It's only sustainable if artists give back. Then to build a good ecosystem. But how to give back when they are needing the material support themselves? Give back time. I'm thinking, why not, for example, you call up all your artists who had been in your program, who had been given the honorarium, and then have them, for example, build a mini kind of course. And then, because you mentioned art education in one of your slides, then you upload the course, and then you try to kind of market the course as something good for the community, for the greater goods, and then ask again for funding. I don't know if that works that way, or charge them, I don't know. Even like upload to YouTube, you get ads money, or get kind of Udemy course. I cannot, you know, imagine how people do it, you know, there in Boston. But I would imagine that there are people interested in learning. Then you can get more people, more exposure.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there are certain people who have the attitude of wanting to give back and support us, and I'm incredibly grateful for those individuals. I think what's really hard is that being an artist is a real a hustle, and you work with a lot of different galleries and different spaces, and it's complex. And if you had every gallery that you've ever worked with saying, now you have to give back to me, I think you'd be in a really, it can't kind of work that way. So we're still building, you know, we work on building a lot of different relationships, and great relationships with a lot of artists. And I'm so grateful to those people who are still involved with us, and who want that ongoing relationship. I think one thing that's complicated is I, like you, Mo, will often have those brainwaves about like, well, what if we did this? Or like, what if we did this for like kind of that online community building? And I often think that it's harder than you think. I think that getting people to use different means of communication or in new platforms is hard. I think that we've been building, I mean, we have our art supply swap, which has been popular, and people will bring in used art supplies, and a couple of times a year we'll put them out, and it's essentially like a big free cycle. I think that if we were to kind of like expand that and create like an online free cycle, or like a Facebook page that like that's something that's like a niche that where we could kind of like turn that into a specific community. I think that it's just really important to think about like, to be very intentional about like exactly what you're building and who it's for and how it's going to be used for it to be successful. And I think that like the curatorial incubator program, and that's why I'm kind of like really focusing on these like different communities as well for the curatorial incubator program, and not kind of mixing them. They really need to be, I think, tailored to each group as well. And I think those as well, Mo, could be where online communities could be built and fostered and really could grow.
Oh, cool. About online community, I think here is a good moment to show you a recent project, my just latest discovery. So I was writing...
Before that, I have a question also for Christine. Can I insert my question? Okay. I wanted to ask if you see as a massive challenge that you start gallery as a commercial gallery, then you transition to non-profit. Is it like one of the challenge you go through, and you had to convince all the existing contacts, and sometimes it's like harder to shift the relationship than start the relationship? And also, like in Europe, paradoxically grant writings or like cultural fundings is you need to already get new one kind of situation. So if you start your career immediately like getting some grants, it's way easier to keep having it. Is it like that also in the States? Like, how do you see that situation for your personal career? Like, would you prefer if you start day one today, starting in this direction, or you think like, no, I learned a lot?
Well, I will tell you, I learned a lot, but you know, I learned a lot mostly by making a lot of mistakes, and like so many. It's one of the reasons I like to share what I've done, because I think it can be helpful, and I love your questions. One of the things for getting grants, a lot of times they have a budget floor, and the budget floor will be around like $50,000, $100,000, $150,000, $200,000. And if you're not up to that, then you can't even apply. And so one of the biggest problems I had is that at one time we were both the nonprofit and the commercial enterprise, but the entire budget was under the commercial enterprise, because these were two different separate entities. And so I couldn't use our over $50,000 budget under the commercial enterprise to validate our existence and our ability to handle a large budget as a nonprofit. So I think that if I had had the experience and knowledge, I probably would have just started out as a nonprofit and gone from there. I just didn't have the sense of like what I wanted to do, the vision, the understanding. Also, governance is really hard as a nonprofit. An LLC, a single person LLC, is essentially like you pay a certain amount of money, they give you a number, and then they're like, okay, go do whatever you want. I mean, like, not like within the confines of the law, obviously, but there's so much more governance when it comes to having a nonprofit, because you have to have, you know, the director, you have to have a clerk, you have to have a treasurer, there's reporting, there's just a lot more to it, that it often can feel a lot easier to start something that's like your own business. So it did allow me to make a lot of mistakes that were also only under my personal company. I think, like, looking back, these are all like low stakes, but when you have a board, all those people are liable. You have to have like directors and officers insurance. And if you go on someone's board, you are also liable for any mistakes that that company is making. You are, you know, part of that. And so I'm both of the mind that like I would change and wouldn't change what I have done. I think that, to your point about like collectors and everyone else, I mean, it made for and continues to make for kind of like an inconsistent, bumpy road when it comes to people understanding what I'm doing, who we are. I think I had to put away my ego and remember that we made this change with 5,000 or fewer Instagram followers, and kind of just say, Christine, no one knows what you're doing now anyway. So do whatever you want and, you know, kind of like move on. Because I have people who live across the street who are like, who've lived there for 7 years, and I've been here for 7 years, and like, I've never been in here before. I didn't even know you existed, which is incredibly, you know, is kind of puts you in your place, but also confirms that idea of like everyone is wrapped up in their own thing. And so give yourself permission to make the change that you wanted to make and not worry about what other people are thinking, because they are really only thinking about themselves. And kind of giving myself that freedom to be like, explore this in different ways, I think has been great, because it's allowed me to do what I think is best for the company. And that's what I continue to do, is kind of say, I'm willing to break this all down and say, do we need to just be doing these classes? Should we not have a physical space? We just do the classes online? Or should we keep our space and do, you know, continue to do the shows that we're doing? Should we rent a 7,000 square foot funeral home and do tons of, like, have artist studios? This is like, I was looking at a space, this was not going to be the right move for us, but like, that's what I was looking at yesterday. So I'm willing to kind of consider whatever the universe wants to send me in order to support the arts. Like, I'm willing to think about it.
Yes, difficult choice. Yeah, Greg.
Yeah, you told about emerging artists, but you have also big artists, no, participating.
It,
Spoon, for example.
yeah. I think that, well, so this has been part of our strategy, is that one of the ways in which you kind of give context and show the caliber of who you are working with is by pairing emerging artists with artists who have a higher profile. And this is one of the things that I think we've learned and we've understood over a number of years. And it can be through having solo shows by stronger artists, by having group shows that include stronger artists. But kind of like, you don't say no to when bigger, stronger, higher profile artists want to work with you, because it's only going to benefit the emerging artists. You're not gonna be like, no, Picasso, we don't want this. You know what I mean? Like there's a way in which it brings eyeballs, it brings people, it will help people learn about the other artists who you're working with. If you have these more well-known artists or contemporaries that are willing to work with you. And so I've been very grateful to the wide range of people that we've worked with. And it's created a really great, I think, CV for ShowUp over time. So if you look at like the different people who've been willing to do things with us since the very beginning, we've been incredibly lucky.
You're in Boston as well, it helps.
Thank you. Made sure.
Yeah, I'm here in Spain now, and so I can't stay for much longer. But just hearing you talk, I had a question that maybe diverts a little bit, but it has to do with my cousin who's a social worker in Pittsburgh, and she and I talked recently about the work she does with juveniles, who are in correctional institutions, and or even just very clearly on their way into that sort of life, and how many of them are like really stifled creatively, right? That they have this great impetus, this potential to be using their energy towards something like that. And I just wondered, in relation to what you're talking about with nonprofits, with grants and things like that, have you, or do you know anybody who's ever done work with them to try and promote them towards a better use of their abilities? Getting grants, or getting sort of like funding, or even just attention on them to where they can have certain opportunities, gallery shows where it's like, hey, say I worked with them for some time, and they produce X amount of work, and this is what they'd like to show, that type of thing.
I think that it depends at what level we're talking about. Certainly, like the Teen Empowerment Center, which I had mentioned and shown before, is one of these places that is created to help not like pull children back from a certain style of life, but it's like an early intervention, or it's like meant to just be there to support teens in Boston. I think if we're talking about if we're talking about incarcerated youth or incarcerated individuals in art exhibitions, or working with them in a creative fashion, I think that there are shows or opportunities that have done that. It's not something that I've had the occasion to look into very deeply, but is certainly something like, I'm the type of person who's willing to kind of like do anything and everything. I have a cousin who works in the Bronx and is part of like the Closed Rikers Island movement. And So she's someone that I could like directly ask about, like, what are they doing in Manhattan? What are they doing like in New York with all this? Because you know. And I think it is, though, kind of speaking about the people you know, that level that you're just mentioning, which is like, how do we take people who maybe are turning their attention in one direction and turn it towards the arts instead is very interesting, because it's something that governmental policy has tried to do a lot. And so if you look at civil unrest, I think that you'll notice, like in 1968, for instance, there was a huge investment in the arts right around the time that there was a lot of civil unrest in over like the race riots. And so I've been wanting to do like more research into this, because I'm basing this based on my studies for my master's degree. But there does seem to be this way in which creative outlets, I think, can replace other types of kind of like more destructive outlets for frustration, I think. But is it also keeping people from being able to make the change that we need to make in society? I think it's a different, you know, another way to look at that question on the other side.
Yeah. I think for me too, especially, so, you know, where I come from too, and from what I see, particularly in Pennsylvania, I think Pennsylvania tends to get overlooked a lot, especially with places like Philadelphia. Pittsburgh, not so much. Pittsburgh is pretty affluent in the central, you know, part of the city there, and they tend to have a lot of programs, from what I see, that are geared towards that.
Yeah, they have a strong art city, like community there. That's especially with like Warhol and Carnegie and everything.
Yeah.
But Pittsburgh itself, I know. I mean, Philadelphia is only kind of starting to come in. This is my cousin who lives there, who's been talking. She's part of like the huge like mentorship program in all the private and all the public schools. That's been like a 20-year grant, and is also a big like art person, in the sense that she's been following along with it as a fan.
Yeah.
But has been saying that a lot of artists are now coming back to start supporting it. And I think that they need that.
Yeah, and I think especially too, from what I've observed, and I've had a lot of conversations with my father as well, who for many years was a prison counselor, and he just has a lot of wisdom, and he's got me thinking about a lot of things too, about how, especially how these kids, you know, are being treated by, you know, the people in these systems. I mean, I could tell you stories that are just abhorrent, right? It's really bad, and you know. So for me, it's not even just about like, okay, can I get them the money to make, you know, this kind of work or X amount of work, but how can I create a system that enters into those systems to provide them with the voices that won't leave them, right? That won't just, you know, say, okay, well, that was a great class, goodbye, never see you again, right? How can, you know, you create a group of people who are there to be, you know, long-term mentors who are saying, hey, I'm not going to let you fall back into, you know, these other things. So
to enter the system, it's already going to cost you half of your life. I mean, the system is not open. So if you want to enter the system already, that's already like, I don't know, 15 years work, and you normally have 30-year working period of one's life, right? So it's already not like a casual, like I'd like to do.
You mean
that.
to kind of establish a program? Is that what you mean, though?
For example, suddenly, casually, I decided to be a university teacher because I like to teach and make positive impacts on people. Then they say, oh, by the way, to be able to do that, number one, you need to have a PhD, by the way. Then you need to have a postdoctorate, and then you need to publish books, and then you need to pass language tests, including the most meticulous, ridiculous dialects, fluent. Then you have a possibility to teach. So I'm just saying, like, the system is not open. If you want to, let's say, to contact the prison guards to say, I want to offer art program, then you need to be a 501c3, right? That's already establishing a nonprofit, maintaining it, maintaining a team, have a name, have a community supporting you, fundraising. Everything is already going to cost half of your life. Then to make the impact, it's going to cost you another half. So it's really not like a walk in the park.
You better just, we'll just all give up now. Don't do anything to help anyone because it's too hard.
No, I understand. I always understand, what Mo is trying to bring. There are things that are commitments. And I think for me, I'm not trying to suggest, just me tackling this thing. My cousin sort of came to me when we talked about this because she sees what I do with my work. And I think it excites her, seeing me as a piece of a larger thing, right? So can she get advice from me? Do I have connections that can help her out and her? So it's more of her idea, and okay, how can I participate to make things easier for her? And so I was just curious because I had those thoughts after talking to her some time ago. I know your earlier comments had brought that up again.
What I would add is, I think what can be a really important thing to think about is who's already doing the work. Not because you say, oh, well, someone's already doing it, so I don't need to do it. But because there's knowledge out there that you can solicit, but also programs that you can potentially bring in and get involved with. That's like not there's that kind of concept of like constantly reinventing the wheel doesn't always need to happen. So there can be like these, in a way, blue sky or blue ocean moments where you realize nobody's doing what I want to do. And then you have to think to yourself, why is nobody doing what I want to do? And a lot of times you're going to figure out nobody's doing what I want to do because it can't be done, because it's impossible to insure, for instance. Because for any given, or it's impossible to make money doing it, or like whatever, like if you actually scale out the business plan. For what you're doing, it may be that you could find a nonprofit that's already doing it and say, I'd like, with your cousin, is that what you said, your cousin, or your cousin's help, would it be possible to set up a branch of this nonprofit here in the city? So you're not redoing all of it, but you're kind of taking an operation that already exists and using their governance structure, using just like what they have, and saying, we're just going to work underneath you. Like, we're going to be volunteers. You don't have to pay us, but we just need to use, as long as they're willing to, but you have to gain their trust, right? And maybe learn how they operate and learn their procedures. But it's like it can be so much easier to set up that sort of thing than like to figure out like, okay, like what are the procedures for remaining safe and, and training volunteers.
I'm not starting from ground zero. I'm sort of like piggybacking or becoming an arm of that system. And
And vetting the right people who are going to be willing to engage for at least 12 months, for instance. And who aren't just going to go once and then kind of be like, I'm done. Because your comments about, like that kind of like creating worthwhile relationships, or like figuring out, is this like a one-to-one mentorship thing versus teaching a larger class, and like what is going to be to the best benefit of these incarcerated individuals, and really taking on what are we trying to solve for here, and looking at like all those different models, and then figuring out like what is the best of the best of what I'm seeing. And but that's, it may not be half a life's worth of work, but there's probably at least 6 months worth of research that can be done and talking to people.
Live long and prosper.
Laura.
Christine, have you found any nonprofits who are doing anywhere in the US or the world who are doing what you're trying to do and doing?
Question. I want to ask it.
I would say that people are always doing pieces of what other people are doing. I think it's a question of what people are doing, to what extent, So one thing I would say is that I was on a panel at the Affordable Art Fair Boston this past weekend with a number of other people, including Kate McNamara, who runs Oddkin down in Providence, Rhode Island, and is also the interim head of Harvard's Carpenter Art Center. And she works with a variety of really unique artists and brings in curatorial fellows, but doesn't have them put on shows, but does studio visits with them. And she and I like really vibe in terms of like what she does. And she's taught, I think with either RISD or Brown, has taught curation and is interested in talking to me about what I'm doing up here, because she knows that none of the art schools are really formally teaching this stuff. It's very hard to find a place that is teaching curation, or like this vision that I have going forward, where it's not for college credit, or is in person. You have like Christie's, Sotheby's might be teaching it. You have one place in Germany. I've been doing my research on like who are the competitors. There are very few. Often it's about what is the quality of it and what is the goal in terms of what you're getting out of it. And that's really where like my value add is going to come in, I think, in terms of, because it can be about the connections. It's going to be about really all the different pieces, like the art historical piece of it, the hands-on piece, and like all the different kind of threads that I'm going to weave together. In terms of what my gallery does in bringing these artists in, I think you have the argument both like yes and no, because there are a lot of people who will get guest curators in and are bringing unique things to the forefront. It's just a question. Hi, Major. Thank you. Please, and send me a note as well, please. What you're doing is interesting. I think that like, I kind of like to imagine that other people are doing what I'm doing. But everyone's doing like different flavors, but what I do, I think, is like that. I have this question about, I think, what can an art gallery do? What is our art gallery capable of doing, and an arts organization capable of doing, and willing to like kind of push the envelope and try all this different stuff, which inherently means doing things poorly or failing, or, just going in a couple different directions before you see like what sticks. And
I mean, part of the reason, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, please go on.
Well, part of the reason I was asking you is because you've provided so many good ideas on not reinventing the wheel. And I was just wondering if you have found anybody. It sounds like maybe Kate McNamara could be one of those people, but who you can partner with. And they don't have to be like a duplicate or share your exact vision, but who you could partner with just for a piece, and where you leverage each other and expand your audience, and perhaps expand your financing. Just kind of like the power of collaboration with each other to share each other's audiences and resources.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the ideas for potentially like bringing exhibitions to other people's spaces. I think that's where, you can find synergy in doing that, is that when you're a organization that then goes to a different organization's space, then you can have that opportunity. I mean, at the Affordable Art Fair, that's essentially what we were doing. The people were coming to the Affordable Art Fair because they knew that brand. And we saw they had foot traffic. And this was their first outing of over 7,000 people in Boston, first time around, which I think was great. It was very successful. And we brought in some of those people, but certainly not 7,000 people. And so, yeah, I mean, I've been thinking on a more kind of like national or global level, like how do we kind of take what we have and take it outside of Boston? Because I think it's really easy to think locally, but I think we need to think on a much more expansive scale, to be honest with you. But it's also hard to kind of really get that going and figure out what to apply for with what and how. And I think that, yeah, I know of a couple places in LA that supposedly do things that we're doing. But the other thing is that with those other spaces, it would just be like if someone in Florida approached us and said, hey, do you want to put on a show of our artists? It's like, what's the upside? There has to be a significant upside, right? And it has to really feel like a collaboration of equals. And so finding the right place and the right partner, you know, it's a great idea. And I think that it may happen, but it's not always an easy or natural fit all the time. I love working with Very Private Gallery, though. This is an ongoing, fun collaboration that hasn't been too, you know, intensive, but has been happening for a few years.
Yeah, time flies. It has been quite several years.
Yeah.
Cool.
I thank you guys for like. I feel like I had all the attention on me, which makes sense because I'm the Queen of Hearts today. Royalty.
Queen of Hearts.
Always gets all the attention.
When you mentioned that it's hard to build a global network, I totally agree, because it's not the same proximity. People from different regions, culture, language, time zone, it's very difficult to have the kind of in-person experience. There are totally two different kind of communities, right? Like local, global, and likely it's very hard to have one community and to have people from both different levels. So I think it's almost easier to have a separate community online that is different, and they complement each other, but then run it completely in parallel. You can have core members sharing the same kind of work, same mission, but maybe also doing different things. So I would like to share with you a recent discovery. I was doing oh my cat.
This is hysterical. Cat. Oh my God.
Crying baby.
Oh, your cat misses Greg, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I know. Like every a few hours, he's running in the corridor crying. His like lungs out. Just 2 weeks ago, when I was in Budapest doing this conference, I met a lady who is a fellow of this organization called MGRC, is Media Journalism Research Center. It used to belong to a university called Central European University. Is one of the most famous universities in Central Europe. Well, the name, is a giveaway. And this particular place used to be affiliated with a university. Then they went separate during the pandemic, I think either for funding or for other kind of concerns, but mainly for funding, I guess. And then I've just recently got in touch with the founder of this person in charge of the center, and we have a call scheduled next Monday. But right now, I've just done my homework and got to know a little bit about this. What really amused me is not just the approach of their fellowship organization, which is a thing that I was interested. They have like different lines of work, from journals to kind of policy critiques, white paper, conferences, and different kind of reports. I think they also do paid work, like consulting kind of work, education, lectures, whatnot. So they do a lot of plenty of stuff. But actually, my point here is, I don't know how to switch between the different tabs, but here there is a different tab. I discovered they have a community online powered by circle.so. So it is an app that is like WordPress or like, I don't know, name it, Squarespace. It's an app that you can customize for your own community. And then they have different areas. For example, you log in, usually it's like an open free community. You register, and then inside they say welcome, and you have a community lunch. You can share ideas. You see, have the members, and then you have the voting. You know, what do you want to talk about next week? Or then you have a task box for each individual depending on maybe your role, and then you have open exchange for everyone, and then you have closed exchange. So the open exchange, for example, there is the opportunity hub. So I received every week, because I only signed up for a week. So every end of the week, there is a recap of all the different opportunities emerged in the web where people put in. So maybe you can share like your own project, you're looking for assistant or looking for curators, or maybe you're looking for a funding opportunity, or you're sharing some other people's funding opportunity, like apply for this, let's go and apply for this fund together as a group, or different things. And then you have academic work like, oh, let's write an article together, or like I published my article, please have a look, or critique, things like that. And then you have the closed community, which you have to ask permission to join. And then they have also a meeting. Funnily, they have scheduled me a meeting. I haven't found out how to do it, but basically you can have a meeting here and you just do live room. It's not even Zoom, it's live room. It's quite funny. So basically, that is how they run their community. And I was just discussing with Greg. I was like, hey, do you think it's a good idea to use this app? And then just as I finished talking, suggesting this, I realized that it's not a free app, and actually it costs anything from $89 a month to like $419 a month. And I'm like, no. And then Greg said, actually, we can do our forum in a similar manner.
No, sorry, I didn't tell that. I had to cut you because it's already made. Okay, so this kind of app is called Facebook Facebook-like app, Facebook group. And my problem with that is it's not owned. Like people using communities, they are using Discord or this circle or different apps, but then they are owned by people with founders with their own agenda, and they can moderate you. They have a stronger. So, but we already have something we
have something
own.
Of our own, which is better because they can run away with your data. They can destroy like their sites, and then we cannot.
It's exactly the same thing with the same colors.
Yeah,
This is funny.
Yeah, I know. So when I enter the community, I see all of these activities, and I realize we can learn something from them. That is, for example, perhaps the idea of sharing information. Like if you see an opportunity quite interesting, but not quite for you, but then you say, oh, maybe I share so that some other people can benefit. For example, I just came across an open call for a little video festival, kind of a short video, kind of award. You can enter a 3-minute video and make like, one of the 3 awards of $1,000. And I'm like, oh, cool, interesting. So I was thinking okay, I'm going to write an email and share it with Maria. But then what if like there are other people who can, maybe interested. So I'm thinking maybe to use our current forum in a different way, maybe more open to have more people, like maybe to have different boxes, to have like maybe Christine, you can bring your artist or curator box to say, hey, we can use this forum to share things in our curatorial group. Then we make a little curatorial lounge, just ideas or some other kind of parallel projects we can put in there. I can regularly share, for example, open calls that I come across. I come across a lot of them, and I think many artists could be interested.
It could be just doing a list serve would be the easiest thing to do. You guys know what those are? Laura, you do?
No.
I mean, it's essentially just like we get an email. It's like you subscribe to an email address, and you just getting, it's like a group email thing. And it's like a group email address. It's probably something that's been around since the 90s. And it would just allow you to just send that around so that like, Mo, you could just email this one email address and it would distribute it out to everyone who subscribed to that email address. And then you would know that everyone would get it. And it could yeah, it would probably, it would ensure that everything gets pushed to people as opposed to them having to go to your content. And that's probably the benefit, is that it's going to end up in their inboxes for them to engage with, as opposed to them having to go to either very private gallery or having to go to Patreon or to see the opportunity.
Maybe both, because I think it's a good idea to have a
Sure.
a site. I mean, both, but they're linked. Imagine if I push your email, but in the email, if you want to, let's say you need to be an artist group, or you need help with this, joining this, let's say, open call, where you don't have, like, say, video editing capacity, but you want to really make this short video, you want to give it a go, and then maybe you can, like, come to the thread and then leave comment, and for other people to also see what you've written or something like that.
It's what they group. This kind of groups, they do that. If you are registered to certain sections, they push emails automatically. But emails is a danger because you can block email. People are fed up with receiving emails as well. So the most popular community thing today for the youngest
Discord.
is Discord.
Yes.
But I don't know. What is your
I would like
idea
to have
about
a Discord community together. Like, it's really made for that. Or for some, like, if we all agreed, we can ask the others. We can give a last push to very private art. For some reason, people are shy, or like, it's a system that you are, like, no one has the habit. And it's like building that habit is extremely difficult for me. Like, I need to enter every day. Like, in the beginning, it needs a bit of push. The advantage of existing systems is just, like, so easy to adapt. But also, I agree, like, it is up to so many other inner politics of the program. Or, like, in Turkey, sometimes they shut down Discord. So, oops, community is gone. So we can evaluate all together. But I think it would be very useful.
Or it would be a way to communicate with the outer ring, like the general public, with, let's say, Discord or something. But then if you want to collaborate in a project, to be able to register whose progress, or, you know, to have more in-depths, maybe.
People coming, I have to go.
Okay. Okay, bye-bye. Yeah. So maybe we can like discuss, you know, think about it and discuss the next time what is the most effective way to build a artist community online? Because artists, obviously, they have different habits, they have a different perception, maybe they have different needs. And also, I think this is something Christine could, you know, also adapt to this kind of, if we find a perfect kind of a way, and then you can say, okay, I'll follow the same guideline, but then, like, to build your community, ShowUp community online.
Yeah, I follow ShowUp for even, like, I think before you guys start working. And Eventbrite, there is this system you can register, and, like, if it's not the time difference, I would follow even more events, because there was, like, so many interesting panel talks, like Women in Color, artist talk, things like that. They're really interesting. And I think it looks, I totally understand. Today, everything makes sense, like how you struggle about your business model, but your use of media, I think it's just too professional and too institutional. Like, I would never think from the newsletter this organization has some financial issues. Also, I'm thinking, like, what makes an online community as an online community, because, to be honest, like, how sincerely, how much you can care someone from that distance, like, what makes a community is, like, shared value. Like, I see community almost like a positive cult. Like, there are some shared values, and I also enjoy witnessing people's progress. So I developed that. So I love these people, and I enjoy people witness. Like, I try to bring my community. Like, I have some group of friends that they are subscribed me and believing in me since the beginning, and I want like try to be more raw with them, to sharing like how much I suffered, how I made up myself from zero. So that's also hard to communicate with the external circle. Like I think if you don't have like strong inner circle, it's like hard to convey the message. But I think there's a lot to learn from the people in media. Like even like politically, I always like, even since I was in high school, I was just like engaging politics. Like, these leftists, like they need to learn how to use media better. Like that's the only way. Like propaganda, that's it. And I think in the arts, like I'm not sure if there's no more blue ocean in the art. Like clearly so many people are seeking for different business model, and I think there are still some ways to do like digital products, but it's like I don't know, it requires more fail maybe.
I think there are two different kind of people: the ones who know exactly what to do to make money but choose not to do it, and the one who have no idea. They're really different, because I follow some financial audit channels, and this kind of my habit from business school, the startup panels, and all this kind of even Shark Tank, or why not? And if you really want to go like money oriented, OnlyFans, new pictures, and
Did you just suggest OnlyFans, or am I crazy?
OnlyFans. You know that Vienna Art Museum is OnlyFans for naked
for them.
sculptures.
I have always said if I wanted to sell
Wow.
art with my tits, I could, but I just don't want to. So.
I loved your camera work there.
Can I just say something? There's a great book. I can't find it right now, but I have it. That essentially talks about like it studies and discusses, I think, 7 different factors for developing community. And there are ways in which you can develop it. And it includes things like having tokens that belong to you. It's like if you guys started sending out keychains, for instance, that all of a sudden people would be like, oh yeah, I belong more so to this community. And there are very like intentional ways that you can grow a community and make it feel more like you're on kind of the inside of it than on the outside of it. My whole thing though is that anything you can do, and this comes from my days teaching, the more you can leverage what people are already using and to make success the default, the more likely it is going to be successful. For instance, I have like a screen on my wall, and a lot of times where you have these apps that go into a screen, they're like, so now you're going to use our app, and you have to start using our calendar, and you have to subscribe and all those things. I used one with a Raspberry Pi that connects to this like $6 a month thing with my Samsung TV that pulls up my Google Calendar, because I use a Google Calendar. And so I don't have to do anything different to make it work. And so it just shows my calendar already. I didn't have to like start using a different app. And I think that if you can figure out what people are already using, Discord, use Discord. If they're already using WhatsApp, create something on WhatsApp. And if it needs to be on all 3, on Facebook, this is why people use Instagram. This is why people are on this OnlyFans, evidently. This is like,
OnlyFans,
right? But it's like that when you make as easy as falling off a log, when it's falling off a log into your program because you're the one catching them, that's when you're going to find success, in my opinion. And Because it's like, if you make people do 3 pirouettes to like sign up for your thing, and then it costs money, and then this, like, people don't do it. And that's why, I'm saying, like, the listserv, it's like, even if people ignore the email, but if you have like 3 grant opportunities inside as your subject, there are at least a few people are going to open that. And you don't really care if they open it or not. You're just sending out opportunities. You have no vested interest other than growing your own credibility, and so just thinking about like, how do you, like, what you're looking to get out of it, and how you can kind of like reach people where they already are. And that's a lot of what I'm trying to do too. How do I reach people where they already are? Instead of trying to get them in my door, how do I go to them?
Very good point. And how to get in your door, like online and physically, there are also 2 different challenges, and you are having the challenge at the same time. So if you can, let's say to use a magic wand, and you can say boost 5% everywhere you wipe, would you say you would rather use this magic wand like one time on your physical business, I mean nonprofit business, or would you rather to give a boost online? What would you prefer? Which direction?
Definitely in person, because the credibility of online attention and the authenticity of it is still to be proven. People can like things. People can say they're going to come and see stuff. You don't know if people are bots or if they're real. It's like, what am I looking for? I'm looking for authentic interaction with the art for the benefit of the artists. And this is the whole thing. What am I actually looking for, right? We're trying to get where we need to specifically identify exactly what these KPIs are, so that we can meet them and surpass them and show people that we are doing these things. And in terms of foot traffic, yeah, we're doing the best we can, and we're, participating in these fairs so we can get our art in front of many people. We're trying to show a lot of artists, but we, I think that also enriching the Boston community is incredibly meaningful for us. And that you're reaching that right community if it's happening in person. And I do want to get the word out to the world as well, but it is more, if you can develop it at home first, develop that audience, and that's like the proving ground, but that like kind of is there as that proof that there's an audience that you can then export it out to, usually.
And also, most likely, if people engage with physically, they would also go online. But it doesn't work the other way.
That's very true.
I think I can use your analogy of bringing yourself to where people are already going. And that can be true for also physical presence. For example, this is an art fair of 35 years of history called Flecha. Flecha in Spanish is an arrow, like you shoot an arrow. And they have a website that is also, these are the art fairs, like the catalog, and they bring the art fair to a shopping mall where people are in the corridors of the shopping mall. And they have also like 700-800 artists that you can shop online, and you can shop like obras graficas, graphic ones, and you can shop by size, by price, by artist.
They're very, very Saatchi-like.
Yeah, they're very Saatchi-like, and they're also perfect for, let's say, a shopping mall. I mean, they are not the conceptual or academic institutional works. They are, let's say, rather decorative. Most of them.
It looks like they could run the gamut. It probably depends on context, but yeah, if they're being put up in a shopping mall, they're probably not going to come across as particularly academic.
Yeah, but they decided, it was their decision from the beginning. It was a small 35 years ago. It was just a little project, like a little storefront. And then the owner, I know him personally, and he's like, people don't come here, so how can I bring people? So he's like, I'm going to where people go. So then he started partnering with one shopping mall for the next 35 years, I mean, every year in the same shopping mall to build a art fair of 1.5 months or more or less 1 month. And during that month, they put the works up, and then artists are free to show there. They don't pay a fee to enter. It's not like a vanity fair. And if anything is sold, there's a commission, like a gallery. And I think it works pretty well for local Spanish artists. Those works are perfectly decorative. They fit very well in a shopping mall. It's a fancy one. It's not just like a, crappy one, like in the entrance of a subway, not like that kind, but a quite normal, fancy in the suburb of the city kind.
I went to it, Mo, remember?
Yeah, right. You went there.
And there were a ton of people looking at the art.
So you think as a like art fair, eccentric art fair, how would you rate it? Would you say out of 10? Would you give it like an 8 or 7 or 6 or?
I mean, that would be hard to say because it kind of depends on what you're trying to compare it to. But I liked it way more than I expected to. But I'd been to all those other art fairs that you sent me to that were very different from the one in the mall. So you could tell the difference. The one in the mall was very appropriate for its setting. And it was like more sellable work to a more mid-range audience than anything that I saw at the art fairs that was either really, really high end or more conceptual.
I love that. I have to go. Unfortunately, I have to get home and pick up one of my kids. So I'm so sorry. This was a wonderful conversation, though. I'm sorry to see it end. Thank you all.
Have fun in your outfit. I hope your day
attention.
goes great. I hope you get
Thank
lots of
you.
attention.
I'll be sitting at home, but it's been fun. So take care, everyone. Bye.
Ciao.
Bye. Yeah, so exactly, it was a very cool idea that I think really got artists' work sold, and the result is work sold. As long as the result is achieved, I think the way is less important. Especially, it's also ethical on top. They don't charge artists to put the work there. The cheapest art fair, like Artissima or not, the cheapest art fair today with the shittiest booth possible around the corner to the bathroom, the size of not bigger than my little living room, it's more than 8,500 euro for just 3 days. And it doesn't make any sense for any nonprofit or small mid-level gallery to even try. And I don't know how long, those kind of fees are gonna continue to grow. Like in the last years, it has been, I would say, not doubling, but since I started following the fairs in 2016 in Madrid, when I moved to Madrid, then I would go to every fair Madrid had to offer. And I've seen almost doubling of the fees. And before you could get away with 4,500. Now you cannot get away even with 8,500. And no work was sold in one of the booths we visited. Laura and I, to my friend's booth. It was her first time. They gave her the worst location. And even the media team, when they have to swipe their camera to make everybody happy, missed her corner. And she had zero presence and zero attention. It was really, really sad.
Do you need to get tickets for this art fair?
So normally for those kind of local satellite fair to Arco, you would get free invites from almost everyone if you're in art. Like they send invites to almost everybody who is remotely involved. They're not very tight like Arco. Arco only a few hundred top people would get invites. Otherwise you just pay $45 to get in, which is almost like nonsense. It's a second to Art Basel, which you have to get even more, like 65 or even 70 if you convert to euro for 1 day. It doesn't make any sense even to casually visit. But those are, I think, similar to Artissima. The fee will be under 20, right?
No, it's 25 one day, 35 2 days.
Yeah. So it's around the satellite fairs around 15, 20, and max 25. I would say Art Madrid would be 25, similar to Artissima. And then the other secondary fares will be like 20. And the really strange fares that in a hotel room, it will be like 15. But I kind of knew Artissima was around 25. I was thinking to go, but my thesis really occupied majority of my time. And I'm like at the end of it, so I couldn't make it. But I'm very curious to know what is happening in Artissima. I'm sure that it's different every year. There are new tendencies, like they grow the prices. I don't know how sustainable it is.
Send me an email after this talk so I can be more prepared there, and I will send you back an email like what I think there will be 3 sections, and I will do my best for you. But I asked the ticketing because it's like if it's in a shopping mall, like normal client, like also trying to understand the business model. Like there's a emerging art fair in Milan.
Yeah.
It started like just 4 years ago, and it reached incredible amount of authorship and prestige, and it's just for emerging artists. And they in Italy, unfortunately, usually application prices are high and ticket prices are high either. Like there's the culture of charging people for like wine festivals, art festivals, art fairs, and they're definitely the fair. Like in Bologna art fair, even Bologna is known to be more public from the other cities. Any art fair would be around 20-30 euro. Rea art fair was like 60 euro. It's like insane, but they sell lots of work, so they literally want to exclude, like they want people only who can buy from emerging artists. So they select artists based on like they charge artists in application, then they select, then they offer the booth, but they are affordable art. So I guess lots of people are buying the art, and they have lots of sponsors anyways. And I was discussing with my boyfriend, like I was complaining about why everything is so expensive in Italy and people are just accept paying anyways. Banks are sponsor for these events. They definitely so greedy about that, and like it's hard to change the ecosystem in this way. It doesn't allow any other emerging institutions finding their like trying their business models.
The way it is because someone else tried to do it differently, failed, and it's
Thank
not
you.
so easy to just like why don't we do it that way, or why don't we do it the other way? So it's sad.